Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Gavel, featuring attorney Anna Toledo. Ms. Toledo is the senior attorney and general counsel to Targeted Justice. She has a background in constitutional and environmental law and is an experienced litigator, including 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's Ms. Toledo.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 43 of The Gavel, a podcast dedicating to bringing you the latest news on a fight against government weaponization. I'm your host, Anna Toledo. I have been an attorney for over 30 years, litigating environmental law, civil rights, First Amendment, and now I am in Washington, D.C., fighting the fight of my life, of our life, fight for freedom from government weaponization. My goal is to expose this horrific program because once it's exposed, it can no longer operate. And I am counting on each and every one of you to do your part to help us expose this wickedness that not only affects over 300,000 Americans, but also around 6 million people around the world. It's got to stop. Fortunately, the news every week gets better and better. The truth avalanche gets better. So please help me defeat the censorship. We all know that we undergo the throttling, the censorship. Like, share, and subscribe this podcast because as little as it is, it's having a huge impact on this fight. This is the most important struggle. I know that there are horrific things happening around the world, but I am laser focused on this because, as you know, this is going to be rolled out to the rest of humanity. And that has, every day we see news about the surveillance of Palantir, the surveillance in cars, everything that they're doing, that they tested it on us and now they're rolling it to the rest of the population. But fortunately, I think we're on time to stop it all. We just need to expose it. Before going any further, I wanna read again my Psalm 91, which is just the one that each and every one of us should read every morning, which is not completely, but here it is. Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in the darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you. I didn't know about this psalm. I've told many of you, I didn't know about this psalm, even though I went to Catholic school. I didn't know about this psalm until a very good man chased me to the parking lot in front of the San Juan Superior Court, where he knew and he overheard so many people trying to harm me. And he came to me and said, you have to read this every day. He was a marshal at the court. And as a marshal, he would overhear attorneys and judges planning to do things to me. And he had the courage to come. He didn't tell me exactly what was happening, but he had the courage to come and tell me, protect yourself. I was clueless because I didn't know what targeting was. But you know what? It's worked. I have been protected ever since, and even before and after. Anyways, right now, the news are so good this week. I'm sure you all have seen them. But before going into the news, I am going to play you, for those of you that didn't read it, I'm going to play you the Targeted Justice newsletter, which, as you know, our beloved volunteer Sean is in charge of it, and he just does such an amazing job that I have to honor him, because he is the example of, putting your money where your mouth is. You want to be free, you fight for it. Thank you, Sean.
How to encourage whistleblowers. We have listed effective strategies that address these barriers by reducing perceived risks, strengthening moral and pro-social motivations, reshaping social norms, and building trust in institutions. Social norms powerfully shape behavior. Many people overestimate how many others support silence. Sociological and psychological studies emphasize that ease of access and anonymity reduce fear and moral disengagement. Behavioral research shows that extrinsic rewards can outweigh loyalty costs, especially when tied to outcomes. These tap into fairness motivations, while counterbalancing personal sacrifice. The single most important factor is dramatically lowering the perceived and actual risk of retaliation, which psychological research consistently identifies as the dominant deterrent. When people believe protection is real and retaliation will be swiftly punished, reporting intentions rise substantially.
Dr. Engel is on the advisory board of Targeted Justice. Check out her latest interview with Sean Atwood. She is a wise woman that has seen it all.
Many home security cameras use universal plug-and-play to open ports on routers, which makes them visible to scanners on the public internet. If you did not change the manufacturer's default credentials, any observer can view the feed remotely. Targeted Justice recommends wired real-link security cameras, but you must change the default credentials. You can also use a hardware VPN and change the settings frequently. This makes it difficult for the government criminals to find your camera.
And we ain't backing off or giving up, I'll preach what you taught me. They may have killed a soldier, but that man had an army. This is far more deep than some political parties, and you can't kill freedom, so this one is for Charlie.
This ain't the America that all our parents love, but good men tried to keep making it great. Pray that God will take care of us, the system is failing us when good men die for the things that they say. And I can't just be quiet, so I gotta be brave, cause this is America. Lately it's scaring us, but one good man can change it all in a day.
Calling all digital warriors. Please like, share, and repost this video on all social media. We're still looking for volunteers. What's your skill set? Let us know how you can help by emailing us at tjustice2@proton.me and put volunteer in the subject line. Are you looking for more targeted justice content? Go to Rumble, and that is where our channel is located. We have t-shirts, cups, merchandise, and more at our online store by following these links. You can either buy a gift or get something for yourself. We are a non-profit organization. Please consider donating online or sending us a check. All donations are tax deductible. Thank you again for watching this video. God bless. God bless. God bless. God bless.
And speaking of digital warriors, I want to give a huge shout out to, I don't know if this is his real name, Robbie Andrew. And he is a digital warrior in X, and he posted this, which I thought was fantastic.
FBI crap. This is what happens when you hire the dumbest people in the world and put them in an agency that has no moral compass. The FBI is the worst agency in the United States. It has violated the constitutional rights of every American citizen. They've been told to do this, to generate fear, but I don't think it's going to happen.
That's awesome. They hire the dumbest people in the nation. But aside from that, Robbie has been making very compelling videos about gang stalking and the infrared criminals and the FBI criminals. And I have to, take off my hat to him, because gang stalking is that one aspect of this horrific program that is very hard to talk about it without sounding delusional and crazy. And he is so candid. He look him up. He is so candid. His handle is Rice Open Eyes, and he's very candid about it. He says, "I know this sounds crazy. Nobody can make this up." So I just want to give a shout out to him because he is creating really good awareness, and it's very courageous what he's doing. And if we had 100 like him, we would expose this faster than ever. Okay, he's determined, he's courageous, and he's not stopping. That's good. Now buckle up for the news for this week. Yes, we're going to be talking about FISA 702. I'm going to be putting, if you look in the show notes, there's your contacts there for Congress. You need to write to them. I'm going to be subscribed to my Meta. I'm going to be writing a proposed letter. You can send your representative and your congressperson regarding FISA 702. So, but I'm going to talk about that in a little while. I just wanted to address that comment. Okay, well, the first thing is that, as most of you, or if not all of you know, Havana syndrome is no longer a myth. The Mockingbird Press 60 Minutes made a report on it last Sunday. But the good thing is we have people like Dr. Giordano, who has been within the realm of possibilities, has been forthcoming about this. And this is what he has
I can
to
tell
say.
you of at least the 25 individuals who were hit in Havana, that was not crickets, that was not mass hysteria, that was not a psychogenic effect. And I can tell you of the subsequent cases, of which there were well over 100 validated and verified cases of events that occurred worldwide, those are not representative of psychogenic or sociogenic effects. And some of the ambiguity and confusion, misconception and misperception of what may have happened, what may have not happened, then did in fact lead to a bit of a sociogenic or psychogenic effect.
There you have it. So this is a scientist. He's a professor. He acknowledges it's real. It's not made up. It's not crickets. It's not cicadas. Now, Dr. Giordano validated Dr. Lambert's Havana syndrome diagnosis as a civilian. So, he's within what he is allowed. He's honest, intellectually honest, and for that we commend him. And I really hope that he comes forth, because he has admitted that directed energy weapon attacks happen within the United States. I hope he musters the courage to expose the criminality going on and who is doing it, because I'm absolutely certain he knows about it. Now, the Mockingbird CBS 60 Minutes concentrated on number one, that it's a portable weapon, with which they do Havana syndrome. So it's a $15 million weapon that they have given to 6 million people to go around the world, hiding, lurking behind a tree. They can see through the walls. They don't never go to the bathroom, and they just fire the weapon. They don't get affected by the microwaves either. So that's the narrative that the CIA Mockingbird Press is giving. And whether or not it exists, well, one of the good things that we should see is the picture of it, right? If they paid $15 million for it, Congress is demanding, if you remember, I covered it here, the House Homeland Security Committee sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security saying, we want to know the results of that testing that you're carrying out. So this can no longer, if they can, and supposedly they've purchased it a year ago, but it only, connect the dots here, because I've been telling you, don't let them give you the psyops. Supposedly they bought it a year ago, but it wasn't until Richard Lighthouse went on Jeff Prater's Major Prater's show on the 22nd of January that on the 23rd, the United States admitted they have the directed energy weapons. So one of the important parts of the video is that one of the CIA guys that talk in there, he said that it's a massive cover-up, a CIA massive cover-up. So you have to wonder if the CIA, which you have already seen the evidence that created the Russia collusion, and they have no problem pointing the finger at Russia with election interference, why would the CIA want to protect Russia as the one that is firing directed energy, hiring somebody to lurk behind a tree and fire directed energy weapons at you? Because it's a psyop, because it's the continuation of MK Ultra and the CIA criminals doing it, but they don't want to admit it. And one of the people he said it was an act of war. But I'm going to show you probably something that those of you that watched the show, you could have not paid that much attention as to why it was so important. And here it is.
One source close to the incident agreed that the award was rescinded because it went against an intelligence community assessment which says Havana syndrome is very unlikely to be the result of attacks by a foreign adversary. In other words, Havana syndrome injuries have not been officially linked to enemy action, which is required for the Purple Heart.
Yeah, that's a soldier that was awarded a World Purple Heart for getting Havana syndrome abroad, but then they took it back because they had no evidence of a foreign adversary. And for you to earn a Purple Heart, you have to have been attacked and hurt by a foreign adversary. Now, that speaks volumes of what's going on here, because they don't want to admit it. On the one side, they don't want to admit it, but on the other, they cannot say it's Russia, because one of the CIA agents that spoke in there said these are acts of war. Now, Michael Weiss, who is a journalist, and he's intent on the Russia, it's Russia doing it. He did publish a really interesting communication from which it's so cruel. It reflects how disgusting the CIA people are. And they were mocking. They went to this happy hour, and they were mocking. These are the CIA criminals mocking Havana syndrome victims. And they were making fun, like they were electrocuted and everything. So they reported that they mocked victims of Havana syndrome by throwing a happy hour. People were going to turn up acting drunk or like they had been electrocuted. These are sociopaths. These are people that should be permanently psychopaths, actually, removed from society permanently in those FEMA camps that were built to put us all, the ones that didn't want to get vaccinated. That's where they should put all these people there for life, so that they just hang out with each other and torment each other with their own personalities. Anyways, so this it's very revealing, the attitude of that agency and those criminals that are perpetrating so much harm on humanity. Anyways, another good thing, another vindication is that Kevin Shipp is acknowledged that what they described in 60 Minutes and Giordano is happened to him too. Okay, and he posted it on social media. Here you have it. So, little by little, our community is getting vindication from people that have not been called crazy, delusional, or fantastical. This is a good thing. That's why my plea to you is, when you are doing your social media digital warrior action, do it in such a way that it doesn't just go off the deep end. Stay within the guardrails of what's normal. Because even though we know that these criminals do horrific things that are too horrible to even talk about here, our effort is to try to red pill the normies. And there's a lot of stuff they cannot handle. Okay? So this is good. Kevin Shipp is validating the interview where the former CIA talked about his attacks, because Kevin Shipp was also attacked. I have no doubt he probably has Havana syndrome as well. Anyways, now going to 180 degrees change here. John Solomon at Just the News is reporting that what we knew all along, that an ex-FBI agent said that the agency was politicized, and he tried to warn the White House and Comey, which this is under Comey because this guy worked there until 2014. And he said that the agents hired under Comey's watch had political leanings, and they abused the surveillance programs. Just the News, you should follow them because John Solomon is trailing the FBI's criminality. The former FBI agent who ran the Bureau's warrantless spying program, AIE, the FISA Section 702, said this week that he personally, it took him 8 years to come and become a whistleblower, that he personally witnessed the director and other senior officials recruiting agents based on political leanings, not qualifications, and the abuse of civil liberties in the surveillance program. Now, the Government Accounting Office, in January of this year, the Government Accounting Office did render a report where, I don't know, it seems that the Inspector General is not doing their job. So these guys went in there and they did a report where they concluded that the FBI had opened 1,200 probes related to politicians, journalists, religious leaders, academics, and other tied to sensitive investigative matters using a special investigative tool that required, listen to this, and it sounds familiar, no factual predicate to launch. The vast majority of those probes were closed without accusations of wrongdoing or criminal charges. However, I am sure that even though they closed the assessments, they were placed on the TSDB on the secret categories where all of us are. The report assisting the congressional oversight of the executive branch and provided, listen to this, details on the roughly 127,000 FBI assessments. That's where you and I are. Open from 2018 to 2024, the vast majority of which were eventually closed without accusations. The 57-page report did not include any names of the targets, of the targeted. But here's where the problem with it. It stopped at saying they did those assessments and they closed them and they didn't file charges, but they did not look into what did they do with all those assessments. And what they did was put them on the TSDB and torture them and put them on the program. That is where it fell short. So we have to get, on our toes and create awareness about this. I'm going to be doing that. You better believe I'm going to be integrating that into my communications to the people I get the opportunity to talk to in Congress. So I'm going to, the probes that the FBI opens, they're supposed to, get a load of this, address a potential threat to national security or potential violation of federal or criminal law, potential, but there's no reasonable suspicion. Now, all of this is done through a 2008 procedure, DOJ procedure authorized under Obama to do these assessments. This is the crux of the criminality. The DOJ 2008 authorized assessments without criminal predicate. And from there, they just go gather the evidence. So the good news is that John Solomon, Matt Taibbi are the two main ones exposing the FBI criminality. Now, this ties into the fact that is Patel being forthcoming or is he being a hypocrite? Because those of you that read Government Gangsters know that he was denouncing the abuse between 2020 and 2021 of the 278,000 FISA warrants, right? And how it was completely illegal. Well, last week I told you how Patel found out that him and Susie Wiles had their phone conversations had been spied upon. And that was because a whistleblower told him. A whistleblower told him, and that's how he started digging into the prohibited access files, because it is my belief he doesn't have the security clearance to go in there. As Matt Taibbi said, only 5 people have the security clearance to go into the prohibited access files, which is where all our information is, which is why we're doing the Privacy Act requests. Well, so the FISA Section 702 is due to expire on April the 20th. That's like a month and a little bit more from now. Unfortunately, President Donald Trump, who has been doing a lot of things that are contrary to what he promised in his campaign, he has informed top congressional aides that he wants an 18-month clean extension of it, just like it is right now, which is ridiculous. Fortunately, there's people in Congress that are fighting it, and I'm going to tell you about it. On Wednesday, Kash Patel and John Ratcliffe met behind closed doors with Senate Republicans to argue for such an extension. That's what we have to fight. I need each and every one of you to get on board, to write on the show notes. Again, all the congressional contact information, you can access it in the show notes. Okay, so let me show you the newly disclosed figures can reignite the debate over the queries. Let me show you the amount of queries that they have done to the FISA database. Okay, so this is it. You had 2021 was like, going crazy. That's when the Biden administration, they were just going absolutely crazy, putting people in jail for J6. And that's when the, Russia, Arctic frost, all of that was happening. Then it went down. But notice how in 2024, it went down to 5,518. And then in 2025, when President Trump came in, which he said he was going to fight weaponization, it went up. How do you explain that? So the good thing is that there is a bipartisan bill that has been put into Congress by Representative Warren Davidson from Ohio to pretty much curtail the power that the FBI criminals have. Okay. And this is his quote. Today, I introduced the Government Surveillance Reform Act to close the data broker loophole and require a warrant for every search of Americans' data. And Senators Ron Wyden from Oregon joined in, and Mike Lee from Utah. Mike Lee has been doing a lot of little videos saying he's against FISA 702. They are leading the legislative push alongside Representatives Warren Davidson and Zoe Lofgren. The measure carries endorsements from civil liberties organizations across the political spectrum. They sent a letter, a long list from ACLU down to the legislators that have inherence in this. And, what's really weird now, and I have to admit to it, what's really weird now is that the Democrats, just to be, on the opposing side of the Republicans, they are the ones that are advocating for privacy rights and against the abuses by, the surveillance state. So these civil liberties organizations wrote to people like Durbin and all the people on the left who are going to do what they didn't do under Biden, which is fight for those civil liberties that are being obliterated, particularly with characters like Peter Thiel and Palantir. So this bill, what this bill would do, and I'm going to write on it in my mirror, because you have to specifically ask your legislator, your representative, or your senator to support this bill. I'm going to put the text on it, and I am counting on each and every one of you. Remember, I cannot write to them. I can go visit, but they give preference to their constituents. Okay? So the bipartisan bill would force the FBI to get a warrant to read Americans' messages and ban the federal purchase of commercial data on residents ahead of critical April deadline, because that's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, I don't have to use Section 702, but I'll go buy it from Meta, because that, there's always a loophole for them. Well, this bill would stop that loophole. The legislation arrives in a surveillance landscape fundamentally altered since 2024, when Congress last renewed the act. They introduced legislation that would impose a strict warrant requirement on the FBI backdoor searches of Americans' communications, aligning federal law with a 2025 federal court ruling that found that the warrantless practice is unconstitutional. Now, let me just refresh for you why it's so illegal. The Fourth Amendment says that people have the right to be safe in their persons and in their property. When they do a warrant, and in order for a law enforcement agency to do that kind of surveillance on you, they have to obtain a warrant. An FBI criminal has to stand in front of a judge and, under penalty of perjury, swear under oath that he is convinced that you are engaging in criminal activity, that he has probable cause. Okay, the reasonable suspicion is down here, probable cause is here. Nothing, the stupid little assessments are down here. They don't even require reasonable suspicion. So in order for them to legally, pursuant to this statute that they want to pass, in order for them to legally go into your emails and listen into your conversations as they're doing, they have to have probable cause. The FBI criminal has to go there before a judge and say, yeah, because of this and this and this, I think this person is engaging in criminal conduct that warrants you, judge, giving me a warrant to go and listening to everything Ana Toledo is saying over the phone. Because God forbid Ana Toledo talks to somebody and tells about the torture and the illegal surveillance and being for 30 years a law-abiding, a licensed attorney without, ever having a crime, charged with a crime. So the same goes with you. And even those of you that have been entrapped into crimes, that is why I am insisting that you do the prohibited access, that you do your Privacy Act request, because it is very likely that in those files you will find that prior to you being arrested, they were doing surveillance on you and they entrap you. Okay? And if they didn't give you this Brady material, you can argue for your freedom from being incarcerated. Okay? Now, this week, let me show you. Yeah, so I show you the FISA queries. They're going up. And so it's a hypocrisy by Kash Patel, who said that he knocked down the prohibited access door, the files, and that he's going to disclose them. I don't know that he'll get the courage to do so. I will certainly hope that he does. But the bill that you are going to write to your congressperson is called the Government Surveillance Reform Act of 2026. And it will repeal the controversial expansions of the government's wireless wiretapping authority, while overhauling key aspects of federal surveillance law, setting up a showdown with the U.S. intelligence community and its congressional allies, like Rhino Corning in Texas, that I hope all the Texans vote him out, like Tom Cotton, who doesn't want to meet with me, even though he is in charge of the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, that is the sequel to the church committee. He doesn't want to know about the abuses that the CIA is perpetrating on innocent Americans, including little girls. Anyways, so this is good news that at least there are some legislators, some representatives and senators that are willing to fight for our privacy rights. Please remember something. The reason they are so intent on listening to our conversations is because they are afraid that we will actually convince someone and expose this program and convince someone of its reality. That's why they're so scared, because half the FBI is going to jail for their crimes and misdemeanors of what they have done to us. The revenge porn, they have known about the rapes they have done physically to people who are incapacitated. They know about it. They know about their crimes, and they are so scared. And they should be, because we're not going to stop until it's all exposed. Anyways, this quote, it says, in a floor speech earlier this week, Senator Wyden, the one from Oregon that has been the one that has served the longest in the Senate Select Committee, warned that Congress is debating the reauthorization without a complete picture of the government's activities. He said, there's another example of secret law related to Section 702, one that directly affects the privacy rights of Americans. He said, we all need to be writing to Wyden, even though he's from Oregon. And he said that he noted that successive administrations have refused to declassify the matter. When it is, this is the good one, because we all know this is true. When it is eventually declassified, the American people will be stunned that it took so long and that Congress has been debating this authority with insufficient information. The time has come for you to provide the real information and not just flood the mailbox. Okay? Internal oversight mechanisms meant to check the government's sweeping powers have been systematically dismantled over the past year by Kash Patel, who, even though he had criticized the warrantless searches, he flipped on the issue and he defends the program now as a critical tool. Is he mind controlled? Did they threaten him? Is he a victim of blackmail? We don't know. But that's where we stand. At least we have Mike Lee and we have Wyden and we have the other two representatives that are fighting for that. Now, this week, Targeted Justice published on Twitter, and I published in my media, what national security is and what it is not. This is crucial because some of you have been receiving replies from your Privacy Act request that there is national security involved. I recommend that you print out the Holder Memorandum of 2009 that explains that national security is not to be freely invoked, that there is a process to invoke it, and it should not, by no means, invoked to hide information that people have a right to obtain. So I urge you to take a look at it. By becoming educated on these topics, you don't fall for the psyops. You know, it's once you know that they cannot throw the national security card at you because your information has nothing to do with military secrets, period. It doesn't. I don't care. I don't care if Chance Salzman goes to jail for the rest of his life because he likes to torture little girls. That is not a military secret that warrants protection because he's a criminal. Anyways, this is really good news. And somebody built a device that is called the Ray Hunter, and it's made by the EFF, and it costs $20, and it tells you when somebody is spying on you. Okay, I'm gonna post about it because I can't post about it here, but it's, yeah, I can post here what it's called, so that yeah, so here you have the link. You can go in there and try to get it. I think you have to buy it, the little device, but then you download from them the, after I put this here, please somebody tell me if the link is working. There you go. And what you do is you buy the device, which is a $20 device, and then you download from the Electronic Freedom Foundation, are these people. You download it, and then it tells you if the FBI criminals are spying on you. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I'm going to, but it's worth a try because these are serious people. These are the people that Electronic Freedom Foundation are the ones where they have Snowden sometimes as a contributor, and they're against all this illegal surveillance and all this criminality that they're doing. So anyways, in this context, I have to tell you that on Saturday at 2, I'm going to have the monthly Targeted Justice meeting in the Palisades Library here in DC. And I hope that those in the DMV area can come. It is my hope that one of the TIs from the area. Okay, thank you. Okay, so try to check it out. Check out that article of the EFF and see if you look. It works for us. I know that we all have a lot of evidence of the hacking that they have done to us, and that is, you can, when you send your communications to your senator and your representative, you can send screenshots. Don't send pictures of a car in front of you. That doesn't say anything. That only makes you look delusional. I'm not kidding. Just send screenshots of the hacking. Send screenshots of evidence. For example, I have evidence that I sent an email from one of my emails. And in that email, it tells me when somebody opens the email. I sent it to my Proton mail, my proton.me. But I had not opened it in Proton, but I had the evidence in my other email that somebody had opened it. That is concrete evidence that there's a criminal reading my emails because I had not opened it. And in fact, when I went to my Proton, it still was in bold as if I hadn't opened it. That kind of evidence you can include to your senator or representative saying, I am a law-abiding American. I believe that just like Christine Crowder, I have been illegally placed on the terrorist screening database and my life was turned upside down, and you need to stop FISA 702 because this is not about terrorists. This is about innocent Americans that exerted their freedom of speech, reported crimes, opposed COVID mandates, or whatever, the reason was. Okay. Hi, Craig. Hi, dear Craig. Sorry, I had to stop because I appreciate Craig. Craig, I think it's really important, and I want to have an interview with Craig. I'm going to start doing little Targeted Justice podcasts on filling them in. Nobody can fill in and substitute Melissa, but on that time slot, and I want Craig to explain, because I think that in this juncture that we are, where sometimes he's in the middle of the sea and he gets savagely attacked, I think it's really important to get that information out there. Okay. Now, okay. So yeah, I hope that you can come to the library, and I hope that one of the TIs that is coming, we're going to talk about some internet safety. So we are planning for that, but you know how the criminals are, that they sometimes have a means of changing the plans for us, but it's okay because it'll all work out. It'll all work out for good. That's how you have to reframe everything. It's just, I am where I have to be. Now, I want to show you this little inspiration. I had not seen that. I had not seen the newsletter had Charlie Kirk, but I want to play this video for you and for you to look at it as an inspiration of our community. I'm adopting it, in the context of, I am borrowing his words in the context of our movement. Okay, hold on. There it is.
Because you are part of something bigger than yourself. You know that you are part of the most exciting, diverse, powerful movement in the history of this country. And this movement This movement is not about Republican or Democrat. This movement is not about conservative or liberal. And I think you're going to see that on display in a little bit, just maybe. This movement is about the citizens versus the oligarchs. This movement is about we the people versus the ruling class. This movement is about America versus the globalists. This movement is about all of us against them.
He was just such a wordsmith. He was such a wordsmith and such a talented person. And yeah, our movement for freedom is us against the powerful oligarchs. And together we can win it. I know we can. We just need to be united. We have to stop the slandering and the attacks in the community, particularly against me, against the Lighthouse, against Targeted Justice, because we're here fighting for each and every one of you, even for those that slander us, because we know you're victims of mind control. So this is a movement for freedom that we should all unite and not look back, because humanity depends on us, that we know the truth. And we have a duty to expose it and to shut it down, because we have survived military-grade weaponry. And it is our duty to expose the reality of it all. So, anyways, Privacy Act request, please. I cannot emphasize how important this effort is. The dam has cracked. The prohibited access files, they can no longer hide because they're illegal. The fact that the Sentinel system has an illegal, confidential, completely classified section that only 5 people in the FBI, not including Kash Patel, have access to, that is illegal. The fact that they put in there victims of government weaponization to torture them and make their lives miserable, it's illegal. I don't care how many names of how many judges are hidden in there, because we know that we have all been victims of lawfare. I don't care how many names of how many hospitals and how many doctors are there, the ones that have illegally implanted you and make your life a living hell. Guess what? They're all criminals, and they will all be exposed for what they are, and we're not going to stop. So please send your Privacy Act request. Jill is a little swamped. Last night she had to evacuate her apartment because there were fires in Nebraska. I'm thinking that it was the criminals trying to stop her from doing her work. But like any professional, I have to tell you, just, be kind, be compassionate. And she has the right to say, no, I can't do anymore, or I cannot do your work, because she has a lot of work to do. But if her email is gltj@proton.me, and please, and this is a personal favor, please don't write to her about Targeted Justice things. She's a professional editor. If you have anything to write to Targeted Justice, you can write to tjustice2@proton.me. But she's not there to answer 50 emails a day. Please don't abuse the fact that we have put her email so that she can help. She can be hired by people to help with her Privacy Act request, so that the criminals don't say, oh, no, you're missing this. Oh, no, you're missing that. Because she already knows what they are going to come. The cards, they misspell your name. They say that you didn't put this information that was needed. They will try everything to block you. Okay, and so she already knows. She has the experience and knows how to make a thorough Privacy Act request that is very hard to deny because of lack of information. Anyway, we're insisting on for those of you that can, put your clocks, your alarm clocks at 11:57 Eastern time, and do the intentional, the 5-minute meditation or prayer. All of our intentions together, it has been proven that it can have the desired effect. It doesn't cost you anything, and it can make a huge of a difference. So please, you can download this. I'm going to put it in the Rumble, but you can download it from X and just look at it and share it at 11:57 Eastern time, and then 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, whatever. Okay. Anyways, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you that have supported our mission here, my mission here. This week is going to be really busy. I'm going to be going out this week, and hopefully I'll have great news for you next Friday. And let me just check here. I don't peaceful TI March tomorrow. Okay, somebody says, David here says that there's a peaceful march. Let me see. No, I missed it. I want to say something. Yeah. Oh, Raquel Ruiz. Yeah, this is modern day slavery. We're just, nobody would believe it. Nobody would believe it. There is a peaceful TI march and radio drive tomorrow, but you can't get a hold of Tina Turner. I haven't heard about that. If they reach out to me, I would be more than glad to publicize it, but I haven't heard of that. Certainly not being invited to it either. And the gang stalking, some people are posting inaccurate information. Please be aware that the gang stalking is serviced through the fusion centers. I believe there are 99 fusion centers in the United States. And your gang stalking should have gone down a little bit now that DHS is defunded, because it trickles down to the fusion centers. And it is the Office of Intelligence at DHS that sets the standards, and they give the contracts to vigilantes like the people in Citizen Corp that go around following people and making, the tires flat and stuff like that. So they are the ones that mostly carry out, there are regional people that do the gang stalking, but I have noticed a trend, and it's in social media. There are hordes of gang stalkers in social media, particularly that go after people like, if anybody say anything against those entities that nobody is supposed to say anything against, well, they will come after you like rabid dogs. But you have to understand these are bots, and it's not worth fighting with them. It's just better just mute them or block them. It's not worth engaging with them. So that's my advice to most of you. Okay. Thank you for your prayers. They are so welcome, so necessary, and so appreciated. Please watch out for thank you, Raquel. Watch out for my meetup this week. I'm going to be writing it probably this weekend. And I need each and every one of you to write to your representative and your senator and demand that they support this bill against FISA 702. This is urgent. Let me explain, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. Without 702, the criminals cannot operate, because it is through the interception, for example, of your text messages and your emails that they can block your chances of applying for a job. It is through the interception of that text message, yeah, I'm going to the supermarket, that they have already somebody there waiting for you to gang stalk you. It is through the interception of your communications, how they know who your circle of friends are and how they make them be separated from you and make you isolated. Without 702, the criminals stand no chance. That is true. The CIA and the Space Force criminals can continue to electronically harass you. That is another fight we're fighting. Fortunately, Havana syndrome is in everybody's mouth right now. It's no longer a myth. What we need to accomplish now is to, which is what we're doing, and I have been doing, create the awareness. It's not just federal employees. Once that Pandora box opens and they realize, oh my God, there are many more civilians than federal employees that have Havana syndrome, that's when it's all going to be very bad news for the CIA criminals. So, but for now, in order to stop the gang stalking and the obliteration, for example, of your financial records, the financial, I know a lot of people, what they do is like they lock you out of your, let's say, your Apple account, but they continue billing you apps that you cannot even use just to drain whatever little money you have, because they did it to me when I was really poor. So, and now they're making me not be able to sleep big. So be very careful with those subscriptions that you make, like auto renewal, because they will lock you out so that you cannot cancel them if you need to. And so without 702, they cannot carry out these things because they cannot see what you're subscribed to in Apple. They cannot see your password in your bank account. They cannot see your emails. Okay? They cannot interfere. You know, when you have a two-step verification, they cannot block it. You know how they block it, right? Well, that's why you have to take it upon yourselves to not only send your communication, but also call and write down the person you talk to and make sure your message gets through, because your life depends on it. We're fighting for our lives. So anyways, thank you so much for being here. And you know, what you're hearing right now, it's an average of 60 seconds after I spoke it, because the criminals are really scared of something I might say. So from starting next week, I'm going to start saying things to see if that's what bothers them. I'm going to start, dropping truths that I know and I have been kept quiet about. And to see if that's why, no, Russell, I don't pray the rosary because I'm Christian, but I respect people that do. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for reposting this. And I will see you next week, hopefully with better news, because this week they were good. The exposure of Havana syndrome, you see a lot of reporters saying, I thought that was crazy talk, and I no longer think that. That is one giant leap for mankind. Thank you. Good night.